What was your childhood dreams? Did you want to be a police, a doctor, or a developer? Hello friends, I'm Burak and I'm searching for developer stories all over the world. Today's guest is Henrique. He was into the computers at his early age, and his academic and professional career helped his childhood dreams come true. Let's listen his story and how his story began and developed.
Well, I think my interest for computers in general started when I was like 5 years old,
Really?
Uh, yeah, I remember when I was on vacation and there was this club in my hometown with pools and all that. And I remember my brothers will tell my father to take them to the club, and I would ask my father if instead of going to the club, I could go to his office and play with the computer. So uh, I started at pretty young age. Like at the beginning, there was not much. Like since we didn't have a computer at home, I could only use the computer in his office. So that's where I started like to make some drawings in paint and stuff like that. Started to know about the internet and discovering things that were out there. And the internet was very different back then from where it is. I'm talking about 1997, 98. And we had that dial-up connection with that little music that people that are a bit about my age will probably remember. Dial-up connection, 56 kilobytes per second, so it's absolutely nothing. And it was the beginning of my interest for this kind of stuff. Later I started to do like to learn a bit about Photoshop. I started to learn from tutorials on the internet how to use Photoshop. And I think I was like 15 to 16 years old. I took a course on programming, web development in general. I learned the few basics of HTML, CSS, and I liked it. So after I finished this one, I took a PHP course as well. And from there, I started like having some freelancing work and developing some small websites. Uh, and up to this point, I already had decided that I wanted to study computer engineering. So I like the way universities are structured here in Brazil. It's pretty hard for you to work while you study because you have like 40 hours of classes per week, so it's kind of impossible. So I took a break to focus on my studies, and after I graduated, I went back and working with computer engineering in general. So that's basically my story.
Good. You're lucky that you didn't have any hesitation like what to choose in university. So your desire comes from the childhood. I think you're one of the luckiest ones.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I had some period where I thought about it. I also I liked building stuff when I was a kid. Before the computer, I had Legos, so I think with the computers, like when I was not in my dad's office, I was like building things with Legos. So I had some doubts about doing mechanical engineering or electronic engineering or things like that. But when I stopped to look at the job market and opportunities here in Brazil, where I live, I saw that, dude, it's gonna be way harder for me to get a good job in this position. So, and like for the people that I know that studied mecha- uh, electronics with mechanic engineering, most of them don't work with that nowadays. They work with things completely different from their what they graduated to. So I think this was a wise choice by that time because working with IT in general in Brazil is way like orders of magnitude easier than working in any other field. We
Mhm.
have like this very I think like it, we have a shortage of good professionals for IT in the whole world, but especially in Brazil, I think it's way easier to get around compared to any other STEM field professions. And so, yeah, I had some moment of hesitation, but was not that, oh, I don't know if I'm going to study engineering or law or medicine or something like that. But things kind of related because I like to build physical things, and now I build digital things. So it's in the end I like building things. So I think like I could settle for building digital things, and that fulfills me as well. So
Mhm. You have the various job experiences. Do you have any colleagues who is graduated from the bootcamp instead of a university?
uh I had some of those colleagues before. Currently, in my current company, I don't think there are people with this background, but I think it's just more of a coincidence than something that is required.
Mhm.
Uh, I do see that when you work as a software engineer and there are some companies that they value your academic background,
Mhm.
but to be honest, the most companies out there, they what they value the most is that you can get the job done, that you have critical thinking, that you can solve problems. And I think the guy that I consider to be the best developer I ever worked with, he didn't have a degree. He was
Mhm.
self-taught, and I never really thought that I was better than anyone just because I have had a degree in computer engineering. But it's interesting to know that you can find people from different backgrounds doing programming and doing it very well. It was kind of funny because my first job after I graduated was in a big national bank here in Brazil.
Mhm.
And it was funny because due to economic crisis and like a history of bad administration we had in the 20th century, uh, there was basically no real economy in Brazil in the 80s, for example. So I met a guy. He was older, like he was about to retire, but he was a dentist,
Mhm.
and he wasn't getting any opportunities as a dentist in the 80s. Then a friend of his worked at the bank at the time and invited him to go and work at the bank to program and do programming in COBOL. And he thought, well, I know nothing about programming. What the hell am I going to do that? And his colleague told him, well, you can come, we can teach you if you like it, and I'm sure it will be easy to learn. And he has been doing that for 35 years now. So it's kind of one of the nice things I think I find about working as a software engineer is that you can come across with people with very different backgrounds, and that's kind of funny, and it makes me kind of uh, I don't know. It makes me happy, like to see that even though people that were fundamentally different from me, they chose the same sort of the same path I chose as well. So it's something I like to see in this field. So yeah.
What is the learning path to be a senior developer? What do you think?
So here's the thing. Like, I think software engineer is the only profession in the whole world where I saw someone with 2 years experience holding a title of senior.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy if you think about it, because there's no way you can gain seniority in 2 years. You just haven't had enough. You just hadn't made enough mistakes in order to call yourself senior.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the issue is like, because there's so few, there's the shortage of professionals is so big that the way companies try to retain you is by giving you I don't know, a title of senior so that you get motivated or something like that. But I do think that seniority is highly context dependent. For example, I was considered a senior in my second job, but there's no way I would to be considered a senior at that point if I was working in Google or any of the FANG companies, because I think that what makes you what makes the difference between a senior and a junior or a mid-level developer is that the amount of things that you have seen and done and the amount of mistakes you have done. Because some things people can tell you, oh, don't do that because it's gonna go bad, but until you have done that yourself, you will not truly learn the problems of and you will not like develop that intuition of, okay, if I do this right now it will work fine, but I think 1 year from now the whole thing will blow up. And I think that's the main difference. Like, once you had made enough mistakes and you have learned how to steer away from that in the future, is when you can be considered a senior. And this can change a lot if you depending on the environments you are working with, because you can be senior in one company and in another company you would be a junior or even an intern. I worked with a guy here in Brazil, and he was a senior, like he was the team lead. He was like and he went to work in Israel in information security, and he had no background on it, so he started as an intern there. So yeah, just summarize, I think it's highly context dependent. If you, it's not something that you should get attached to, because I think like experience takes time to build, and of course it's nice to have some title telling you were senior, having some higher salaries and things like that, but I wouldn't get too attached to the word or to like the concept of seniority, because that comes with time. You know, if you if you learn from your mistakes, I think that the most important thing is like make mistakes and learn from them, because otherwise this will come and bite you in the future.
After you mentioned the making mistakes and gaining experience, what do you suggest to a junior developer? Is it better to work in a startup environment, which is only limited people in the company, or to work in a middle range company to be with senior developers to learn from them?
So I think there's not a right answer for that. From my experience, I think that if you work in a larger company, you usually will have more senior in terms of quantity, more people around you with more experience and to teach you, and you can have some sort of safe net where you can learn and slowly progress towards like a different level of seniority. So usually in larger companies, they have much more compartmentalized teams. You will take care of something that is very small compared to the overall of what the whole thing that that company has. Uh, the drawback of this is that you can feel stuck sometimes, and you will sometimes feel that you're not evolving at the pace you thought you would, because it's it's fundamentally harder to change a big company. So it's not that new technology that you saw that will be accepted by that company, and that can be frustrating for some people, and for others it's totally fine. As on the other extreme, if you're working on a startup, the thing is like you will get contact with a lot of more things at the same time. Usually, the whole team works with the whole solution that that startup has. You'll be exposed to working in front end, back end infrastructure, uh, and you will be required to learn, and will be given more responsibilities first. But that also comes with a drawback that you might not have anyone to guide you through that process. So I think there are a lot of chance that you will get hurt in the process, like making some mistake, deleting some production database tables and things like that. And I've done some things like that in my life. Like in my second job, I had a mid-level. I was in a mid-level position for engineering, and I think I had two weeks. I started working in the company, and they gave me the password for the production database, so I could make a dump of the database to my local environment to have some data to work on, to be able to run the system. The thing was, I reversed the parameters of the dump. So I started the dump like from my computer to the production server, which corrupted the entire database. And we spent like the whole night trying to fix this. So is that this would never have happened in a bigger company, because nobody would ever trust someone that just joined with the password to the production database. So I think like looking from my point of view, I prefer moving faster and taking risks. But some people are not comfortable with that, and that's okay. That's no there's no right and wrong. Just you have to be aware of the trade-offs of bigger companies and smaller companies, and there's all that there is between those like mid-sized companies that you have a mix of both. Uh, in the end, you have to understand how it works best for you. If you prefer to be shielded and evolve at a more steady, slow but steady pace, and having people to mentor you, you'll be better in a bigger company. If you would like to get your hands dirty and learn and practice, I think a startup would be a better environment.
Mhm. Thank you for your answer. And how did you decide to work in blockchain area? I know that you're working as a decentralized application developer.
Yeah.
And what is it, and what's the difference between traditional applications? Can you mention briefly?
Sure. So my history with blockchain technology started a couple of years ago. I first heard about Bitcoin the year I was living in Spain. This was between 2012 and 2013. Some colleagues from university there, uh, told me about Bitcoin. I started to, okay, this looks nice. But nothing too serious. I think there was some sort of bull market on Bitcoin, I think in early 2014, by standards of that time, because think that the price went up way more than that nowadays. But it caught my interest, and I started to doing some research regarding the more technical aspects of it, but also as some sort of side job and side project, and like nothing too serious. I made some presentations to some colleagues in the company I was interning with. After that, when I was working at this bank, my first professional job, I heard that they were assembling a group to study the blockchain technology, and I kind of volunteered to be part of this group. I talked to my boss at the time. He wasn't even aware that this was a thing, and he poked around, and okay, I worked in my team was responsible for basically doing research of new tech for the bank. So this was new tech, and there was a demand for my team. And since I volunteered, then my boss put me up to it. And then I spent, I think, 4 or 5 months, and this became my full-time job. I basically became a researcher in blockchain technologies. So that's when I really went down the rabbit hole to understand how. First, we decided to understand how Bitcoin worked, because it was a thing that started it all, and Ethereum was very new at that moment. This was beginning of 2016, and from that I really liked what I saw, and that goes like together with some worldviews I have. I'm a die-hard libertarian. I truly believe in freedom, and the blockchain technology has a lot of resonance with that. And I had this experience that in this bank, and for some reason this working group was dismantled after we finished some stages of our research. And I eventually left this bank and went to work on the startups, mainly because of that we just discussed. I wanted a more fast-paced environment. And about that time, like the hype started to catch up to blockchain in general. So it was too many things happening at the same time. I decided that I wanted to do some detox, and I focused on my career on learning more about what we call traditional centralized applications, and because that would at the time would give me a better leverage for my career. There wasn't many companies doing decentralized applications at that time. So I decided to stay away from that industry, just like keeping reading about it, but very sporadically. And last year I decided I wanted to go back to blockchain and crypto, because I thought that almost 3 years later, it was already, I think, like, things matured a lot. So I was able to tell what was a good project and what was not from that period. So if you asked me the difference between centralized and decentralized applications, I think the most mind-boggling thing is that while you have a centralized application and you basically own the server. So if you've done security properly, nobody will ever know what is in your server. And you have full control of that and what you serve to users, what you can do. If something is wrong, you can fix it right away. And when you are working on blockchain technology, the first thing that you have to learn is that once something is in the wild, it is virtually unstoppable. So if there's a bug, there's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent people from exploiting that bug. And that is kind of goes against what the principles of big tech and Silicon Valley, which is like move fast and break things. Since you can't recover from a broken thing, you have to think twice before going to that path. And the other thing that you have to think about is that, well, things are basically out in the public for anyone that wants to use it. And the good thing is you don't have to worry about authentication. You don't have to worry about something like password recovery and things like that. You can also expect that the way programs running on blockchain will work. Sometimes it's very comfortable knowing that, for example, you don't have to do like exception handling, for example, because it's all or nothing. If it fails, it fails. You don't have to do any cleanup. Everything is rolled back automatically. This is a bit of the, but this comes at a price that it's kind of hard to reason about, because it's fundamentally different from what you were used to in centralized applications. You don't have like a database. You don't have many of the data structures that you are used to in traditional software. So many times you have like to sort of reinvent the wheel, but taking care to not breaking anything in the way. And so it's very challenging to. It's a shift of mindset you have to have in order to be able to work with decentralized applications.
Thank you very much. You know HTML, CSS, PHP, and this blockchain technology, and lots of things. And how do you learn effectively those things when you start learning new topics? What is your methodology?
Yeah. So for PHP, I think it's been 6 or 7 years I don't write a line of code in PHP. So I wouldn't even consider I have this skill anymore, because I've probably forgotten most of it. But I think the best way to get to know something new is by actually building things using that. So if you are trying to learn JavaScript, go ahead and build something, some in-browser game, or something like that. Because you can read a lot of tutorials and like, I think I got this in my head. But once you try like writing code on your own, then you see, okay, it's not that easy as I was thinking it would be. So I think the only way is like doing stuff and I'm not sure if I have like some silver bullet advice here, because it really depends on how you learn. Some people like to learn by watching videos. Some people think reading books is better. Some people use online tutorials, written text, or a mix of those things. So I think you should like really understand and compare, like using these different resource materials that you have at hand, which ones give you the most uh, it's more optimized for the way you learn, because everyone learns differently. And so for me, I think if I had to make some account for that, I'd say most of things I learned so far was maybe 70% reading things on the internet, 20% books, and 10% videos. I somehow don't like videos because I don't know. I think it's too slow, but I think it varies a lot. I had a friend of mine which could only learn things if he watched something doing it on video, and that worked for him. So that's you have to figure out. I don't have a really answer for you.
How did you get your first job after you graduate, or maybe while you're studying, you get a project?
So my first job was as an intern. We had mandatory internship here in university in Brazil, so you have to have some. Not don't remember how many hours, but it's something relevant. So the thing is, like, since this is IT in Brazil, the company kind of go after you. And since I studied in a good university, it was easier in that regard. Uh, I also have been to bootcamp recruiting fairies as someone recruiting people, and that's we hired someone there. So there's something that I think it's a bit different from what I've seen, because I think it was something like it was a mix of graduation party and the recruiting fairy for that bootcamp specifically. Uh, Other than that, well, you can for sure. There are some companies that are specialized in matching developers with companies. Most of the ones I know are local to Brazil, so I'm not sure it's relevant for everyone. But there are certainly lots of ways of for you to get at least some interviews and be able to talk to someone and show your skills. That was it.
Mhm. My last question. What three pieces of advice about your career would you give to your younger self?
Um, I think I would tell my younger self that I shouldn't be too impatient. I should like take time to let things sink in and really stop and learn from my mistakes. I would also tell my younger self that, well, enjoy life a little bit more, instead of being too focused on my career and things like that, because in the end, of course, I like to be. I like my career. I like being a developer. I like feeling that I'm getting better at it, but sometimes you reach the point of diminishing returns. I had times where I arrived at the office at 8 a.m. and would leave at 2 a.m. I think I would tell me to not waste any more time in a bad environment. And
Mhm.
as soon as I find myself in a bad environment, which very little chance of changing, I would find something else. So I think that's the three advices I would give to myself.
Thank you very much, Henry. It was very cheerful to talk and have a conversation with you. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, de nada.